All right, we're back here on Is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Arut Sheva, and the show is also on YouTube under the Messiah Hour with Ari Louis. Check out that YouTube channel for other programs. Our guest today, and if you're listening in Israel, it's the afternoon. If you're listening in New York, it's in the morning, is a frequent guest to my program from soulmazal.com, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi Katz, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ari.
Absolutely. Now, Hanukkah is vastly approaching us rapidly in about a few weeks, and I wanted to talk about that. We'll talk about 7 wisdoms here in this segment. First, I want to talk about the concept of trivium plus quadrivium equals liberal arts, and that was a Greek idea, so to say. If you could talk a bit about that in terms of that versus Jewish culture.
The idea in going into Hanukkah is, and very simply put, it's about wisdom, based on Judaism, Torah, Greece, everything. And the way the flow can be broken down is very simple. Greece introduced wisdom to the world in the modern way. That wisdom was developed by Greece. Eventually, it'll get infused into the Roman Empire, and it'll get trickled down through the years. You will have come into contact with it by university when you got a liberal arts degree, or you were associated with anybody in liberal arts. You were delving in Greek wisdom and didn't know it. You were in the quadrivium and the trivium, which is the 7 wisdoms, and simply put, they are arithmetic, geometry, music, astronomy, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Those 7 wisdoms are liberal arts. That is the university as you know it. It is the Roman Empire, the church religion that became society that we grew up in and live in. This is what that is. We are still in Greece. We are still in Hanukkah. It just became shrouded in McDonald's, the culture. But it really is still those 7 wisdoms. And that's what the Torah is still fighting and will be redeemed by the wisdom of Torah that contains and elucidates those 7 wisdoms.
Okay, now what's interesting, this show is called Is It Prophecy? We deal a lot with prophecy. I want to know if you could talk about the difference of wisdom versus prophecy.
Wisdom versus prophecy, you can never stop talking about this. To pick what's apropos for Hanukkah, the prophecy is not the arena that we want to go into for this discussion. Now, everybody wants to go into prophecy. It's amazing, meditation. And that's really what's interesting about Hanukkah. Hanukkah assumes that prophecy is, was, and always will be. Right? We assume that it never really left. We say it's been taken away, yada, yada. But it really is always there. It's a fabric of creation. What's missing is the wisdom of how the prophet, so to speak, can harness the prophecy. If you have a dream, for example, that's an amazingly prophetic dream, right? And you wake up, you say, whoa, that was a dream. But if you don't have the wisdom to entertain what it means, you will not touch the prophecy. Joseph in the dreams, he was a tremendous chacham. He had wisdom. So wisdom is what needs to come back. It's the ability to work within the Torah, develop the Torah as kind of a vessel or tool in order to grab and understand what prophecy is and how to do it.
Okay, and a lot of times with this discussion, the concept of Hod versus Hadar comes up. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that for our audience.
When you get into the Hanukkah discussions, in another couple of weeks, as you mentioned, you're going to hear, alongside the wisdom and the prophecy and Greece, right? We've already covered this. But you're going to hear also, Hanukkah is Hod v'Hadar. And you're going to say, what's that, right? I mean, it is a lot of vague material, but Rav Hutner, American rabbi of the last a couple generations ago, he brought it down, I think, in the clearest terms, and I think it makes the most sense. There's a reed in a storm, and you show up upon the reed, you say, yeah, that's a nice reed. It's weathered, and it looks like it's a tough guy, but you don't know the terrain of the reed. If you were to watch it for a year, and you watch the rainy season come, and it waxes and wanes, and you think this guy is going to be dead. the end of the season, the reed is still there. So it was already beautiful to you. It was already Hod, beautiful. Now you realize what went into that beauty. It's revisited its own beauty. It's now Hod v'Hadar. Israel, Torah, the whole story of the Jewish people can be brought down to Hod v'Hadar. You meet a Jew, you say, oh, okay, Jewish people are great, they have good gefilte fish, whatever you want to say. But when you understand Jewish history and you see the whole spectrum, you say, whoa, now I get it. That's Hod v'Hadar.
All right, you're listening to Is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Arut Sheva. The show on YouTube is known as the Messiah Hour. My guest is Rabbi David Katz of SoulMazal.com. Rabbi Katz, this battle, this Hanukkah battle, dealt with weapons. It was a physical battle in addition to a spiritual battle. A lot of people talk about Mashiach ben David, his weaponry. I want to know if you could talk a bit about that.
The Gemara, I think it's the Tractate of Shabbos, if I'm mistaken, pardon me. The King David was known as a man of war, Ish Milchama. And everyone says, oh yeah, he was great with the sword and da-da-da-da-da. But that's not exactly the simple meaning here. When they say he is a man of war, they're referring to his prowess in the oral Torah. Right? He took no prisoners in the oral Torah and the restoration of the entire Torah. The words of Torah that he fought with were called Hod v'Hadar, Keli Milchama, weapons of war. And the way, it's interesting, King David was able to fight with words of Torah. You know, it's almost, I don't know if you saw Goodwill Hunting back in the day.
Sure.
Remember how he used like using the bar, we're going to box it out, right? But he uses I forget which book or whatever it was, this is called for the sake of argument, Shakespeare. You don't know what you're talking about. I can quote it 10 times better than you. So it's kind of like a chutzpah when you fight with wisdom. We're not talking, in terms of romantic. We're talking, he was tough.
Right.
It's like a reality war,
For sure. I think people tend to forget that for whatever reason, that it was not just simply him playing a harp and writing poetry all day. I mean, he went to war. Now, after the Hanukkah Miracle, we had, I don't know if a change in Judaism is the right way to say it, maybe it is, but there was certainly something different that happened that was born from the Hanukkah Miracle. Tell us a bit about that.
People discuss what the Hanukkah Miracle was. They'll say, oh, it was great, they played the dreidel. Oh, that was fantastic.
Right.
They kind of like King David with the harp.
Right.
But what the Kabbalah really speaks about is Hanukkah was just flat out awesome, right? Just imagine you can't even imagine. That's the problem. But it was just spiritually, utterly awesome. And so the revelation came down. In fact, I can tell you how awesome it was, but in the negative. What Paul did for Christianity in the church, in Klippa, and in filth, that's what Hanukkah could have been in the opposite in holiness. Right? For when he outfitted the entire Edomite Empire with a false religion, figure Judaism became outfitted with its true religion from the awesomeness of Hanukkah. Meaning our current state of Torah affairs, the way the Talmud, its construct, the Midrash, what you know of Torah was the result of the awesomeness of Hanukkah.
Now, that is very interesting because I don't think people realize this so much, but Judaism almost died, if you will. I mean, we have a promise from God that it won't, but it looked like it was about to. I mean, this was a very small group of people that was able to fight off the Greeks. Now, that could be one idea of Hanukkah as we know it, but how Hanukkah is considered now is a bit different. I don't know if this is the right analogy, but Christmas of what it was and where it is now are two different things. I mean, any historian can tell you that. I feel Hanukkah is a bit similar. Correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Santa Claus with the mall was not like it is today.
Right. That's right.
Hanukkah today is pretty bad. I mean, it's not too much different than Santa Claus, is it? I mean, as a kid growing up in Ohio, it was really, do you spell it with a C in the front or an H?
Right.
That was all it really was. and 8 days of gifts. And then when we got to high school, it was Adam Sandler was my Hebrew school teacher.
Yeah, that sucked, right?
But Hanukkah is it's a tragedy because it really is probably our most amazing holiday in terms of awesome. And the idea is that in the future when Mashiach comes, which hopefully is soon, it's going to be like a Hanukkah revisited, right, in a certain kind of an arena. It really it's embarrassing to think about Hanukkah and Purim, what we celebrated in America as kids with the goldfish and the Purim carnival, and the Santa Claus in the mall that has the Hanukkah sign in the back, right? Those two holidays were probably the most amazing time of just God announcing to the world, "Hi, I'm God." Right? When Hanukkah was the light of the menorah and all that it entailed, and in Purim it was Amalekites getting killed and smashed up in a total miraculous revelation. And what's supposed to be in our time, even though we're shrouded in these images like we're talking about, especially at this time of year, it's going to be through Torah coming back in a powerful light, that awesome light that we really haven't had access to, maybe since the holiday itself. That original light that came down, which ended up becoming the Torah as we know it, there's still like another gear, right? We've been cruising in fourth gear. We've become acclimated to a pretty good Torah. But it's almost like, your smartphone. If you knew what it could do more than what you do, it's an amazing tool, right? But we don't even know half the things it does.
Yeah.
The Torah has a wisdom that we just haven't really grown into, haven't had such a need in society to grow into. But the Torah is eternal, and we're going to bring out that wisdom, and that's going to be the final conflict and ultimately the victory in Revelation, where we see how amazing the spirituality is.
Again, this is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Arut Sheva. I'm Ari Louis, your host. My guest is Rabbi David Katz of Somazal.com. Just a quick point to add on what you were saying. There is a debate of what holidays will last after Mashiach comes, and most opinions say Purim for sure. People say Tisha B'Av turns into a holiday. People say Hanukkah may be one of the holidays that last after he comes, and the other holidays may be obsolete. Again, different opinions in the Gemara. Let's go to Pythagoras. Talk about that and how that relates to the Hanukkah story.
So let's back up a little bit just to get a running start.
Sure.
The prophet Ezekiel, which brought down the prophecy of the third temple. We're not sure what happened in the end of his life, how he died. Just the guy's a mystery. His entire prophecy is a mystery. There's evidence, very strong evidence. This is not, I wouldn't even call this fringe. This is pretty strong. That he apparently taught Pythagoras' mysticism to him. So Pythagoras was the forerunner to what we know as the intelligent Greece. And the ideas of reincarnation and just a really elaborate mysticism that goes against what we know to be, the Greece that was the antagonist in Hanukkah, anti-spiritualists. Their roots were actually very spiritual, and again, were said to have been developed and given over by the prophet Ezekiel. And so Pythagoras, we know in math, like the Pythagoras theorem, but he had his main revelation, and it's still massively popular today more than ever, and I think Jews are more interested in it than anybody, is the psyche. He was the developer of founded the philosophical principle of psyche, which you know as psychology. And as we all know, psychology or the psyche and Torah really go hand in hand. When you look up the etymology of the word psyche, you'll see that it means soul. So there's a very strong Jewish beginning, which was not surprising that eventually the Torah is going to be translated into Greek, which is the only kosher Torah scroll outside of Hebrew. And as the prophecy goes, by Noah, the sons of Noah, Shem and Japheth, or in Hebrew Japheth, Japheth is predicted or prophesied to dwell in the tents of Shem, the Jewish institutions of learning.
You know, it's also interesting, just to put you on the spot, I understand that there is a mathematical theory known as Kramers' theory, and I've heard that that was a huge rabbi. Do you happen to know that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but...
Yeah, I thought about this the other day. I thought, it's the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, in his spare time, came up with Kramers' theorem. So Pythagoras the Greeks were big into math, right? So we came up with Kramers' theorem, and they came up with, spreading the Bible. So it's like a trade of
we traded off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Again, this is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio. Email me if you have any questions at messiahhour@gmail.com. My guest for this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz of somazal.com. A few more minutes left with the rabbi. Let's talk a bit about the origins of Greece, because we know Greece as the villain, the enemy in the Hanukkah story. But I want to know, where exactly did Greece come from?
Greece, the party line, obviously, is Japheth. Again, I cited the same Hebrew, Japheth, one of the three sons of Noah.
Right.
Shem, Japheth, and Ham. So Japheth became Greece. And just to give kind of a model of Greece, as we showed, that Ezekiel, inspires Greece into this massive, philosophical thinking people. And what's interesting is after their time came of the academy, the joke is, what happened to Greece? Why aren't they thinking anymore? What happened to you guys? And the bigger joke, really, or not even joke, but irony, is they are thinking. It's just you don't know where to look. Because remember, the Bible gets translated into Greece and the Greek. And so the wisdom discussions are no longer about the nature of the universe and a philosophical debate. But the irony is when, as we say, that when Hanukkah comes back, or when it reaches its crescendo in wisdom once again, it's going to be in Bible scholarship. Right? The Greek mind trust still exists. It's just now placed in the Bible as Noah prophecy was going to happen. Japheth will dwell in the tents of Shem. So Greece has always been in and out of our radar, and they're going to come back at the end, and it's going to be that wisdom battle. But we're going to have to find that missing gear of Torah wisdom to basically show how the perversion of Torah, the false religions, what they've done is false, and the Greek mindset, or the Greek inventions in the Bible, are what have cultivated this world in exile. Our job is to bring that to an end and bring God's revelation back to this planet.
Amen to that. All right, now, when Mashiach comes, hopefully, obviously, very soon, we hope it comes today, there's going to be a different understanding of learning, how to learn. Talk a bit about that. We're kind of at a point of learning. We need to learn how to learn, I think, right?
Right. So Hanukkah was about the revelation of learning how to learn. The Talmudic experience. But again, just like the seven wisdoms in university has become McDonald's, right? They're giving out degrees left, right, and center. There's no, you take your seven wisdoms, arithmetic, geometry. It's a joke. They're not hitting those, pun intended, those notes, right? You're learning music, but you're not really doing anything. You're learning all these seven wisdoms, liberal arts, but what are you really doing? What are you producing? So we have produced rabbis in wonderful scholarship. Don't think we haven't. We have tremendous Torah. But what's missing is the real fine points to our learning. It's like for example, MP3. I saw an interview with Tom Petty on YouTube, and Tom Petty said music today is horrible. But we love music. But he says, but you're not hearing any of it.
Right.
MP3 took away all the great sounds. So Torah is still fantastic. But what's going to come back is, like we say, the eighth note of music will come in the times of the Mashiach. Those little points of learning will be shining bright. And that's what's going to make the Torah stand tall, is really getting into not the current wisdom, but bringing back the ancient wisdom that accompanies the Torah at all times, and what really magnifies it to the point of the revelation of the divine.
It's funny. I did an interview last year with a gentleman named Doc Walker who played in the NFL in the 90s. This is a no-nonsense guy. I mean, he was a tad insulting, but one thing he said that was pretty funny, he thought football nowadays was garbage compared to when he played. Right. And I can see the Tom Petty thing, not that Doc Walker's any level of Tom Petty, but that when you go down in the years, you're going away from the temple, you're going away past generations, things can milk us up down. Last question we have for you, is that therefore the true victory of Mashiach, that he brings back the ancient wisdom that we once had?
That's always like the bottom line, right? Mashiach brings the eighth notes of music. Mashiach and this Hod Hador words, weaponry of Torah. The hay of Yud Kei Vav Kei will be brought back. It's that we are, the world's horrible because we're in a fallen state. And so it really is lacking the revelation of the Shekhinah, Gilui Shekhinah. And the wisdom of Torah will begin to arm everybody so that we live in an enlightened society, so we can bring the revelation of the soul, revelation of the temple. It's that revelation aspect that we're missing. And we can learn Torah all day long, but there's another dimension of the revelation. And that's what Hanukkah was. They achieved the revelation, and that's what's missing.
All right, great stuff. My guest this afternoon, if you're listening in Israel, it's been Rabbi David Katz of SoulMazal.com. This initial show is going to be airing Wednesday, December 3rd. If you're listening to this initially, don't worry. There'll be a podcast if you just caught the show towards the end of the interview. Not to worry about that. And it's 10 in the morning in the East Coast of the United States. That's the current schedule. Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 in the morning in the East Coast. Friday's a bonus show. 2 p.m. in Israel, and then 7 in the morning on the East Coast. And email me at messiahhour@gmail.com if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything you'd like to see me cover. Tell me about it. I'm happy to do that. And quick shout-out to a good buddy of mine. He's getting married very soon. His name is Baruch Mordechai Garcia Gallo. He was a lone soldier in Israel, also worked security at the Kotel, and he's getting married, and he needs some assistance with his wedding. So if you can find him on Facebook, he's a friend of mine, Baruch Mordechai Garcia Gallo. Add him as one of your friends, and see how you can help him any way. I'm sure he'd greatly appreciate that. Again, my guest has been Rabbi David Katz of SoulMazal.com. Rabbi, thanks for the time this afternoon. We really appreciate great stuff.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Be well, and stay tuned for part 2 of my episode of the Messiah Hour of YouTube, also known, of course, as Is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio, with comedian Jeremy Feldhammer. This is It Prophecy on IsraelNationalRadio.com.